Hello friends, about 70% of the friends who watch my videos are not subscribed, and I would be very happy if you did. Also, don't forget to press the like button and leave your comments. Your interaction makes the content reach everyone and contributes to the growth of the channel. Thank you all. From which country or city do you follow the channel? I'm not the kind of person who believes in superstitions. I used to laugh at stories about cursed highways and strange towns that don't show up on Google Maps. If something couldn't be explained by logic, I didn't think it was real. But everything I believed in started to fall apart the night my car broke down in a remote part of rural West Virginia. No cell service, no passing cars. And the weirdest part, my dashboard clock, reliable for the last 5 years, froze at 6:06 p.m. the exact moment the engine cut out. I thought it was just a coincidence, until a rusty tow truck appeared from the fog behind me. The driver looked like he'd stepped out of a forgotten decade. Sunken eyes, skin like dried bark, and a voice that sounded like gravel grinding under tires. He didn't ask if I needed help. He just said one thing. If you want to survive tonight, you need to memorize these rules before it gets dark. Then he handed me a crumpled piece of yellowed paper stained with what looked like old dried blood. The writing was shaky, almost desperate, as if scrawled in a panic. And that night was the first time in my life I truly believed that some things shouldn't be touched, shouldn't be broken, and most of all shouldn't be questioned. I used to believe that back roads were only scary in horror movies. I thought as long as I stayed calm and had a fully charged phone, there was nothing to fear about driving at night. But that night, West Virginia taught me a lesson I'll carry for the rest of my life if I live long enough to tell it. I left a client meeting later than expected. GPS rerouted me through an old highway, quiet, but nearly an hour faster than the main road. I took it without hesitation. Around 6 p.m. the sun began to dip behind thick tree lines. Orange light streamed through the windshield, warping across the dashboard like shadows trying to crawl in. I turned on the radio hoping to stay alert. But there was nothing. Just static, like someone whispering right beside my ear. 6:06 p.m. The headlights flickered. The AC shut off, and my car died right there on a forest road in the middle of nowhere. No lights, no houses, not a single soul in sight. I popped the hood trying to check, though I had no idea what I was looking for. I reached for my phone to call roadside assistance, but no signal. I walked up and down the shoulder, holding my phone high, desperate. Not a single bar, not a single car. That's when I started feeling it. That wrongness. Not fear yet, but a creeping sense like someone was watching me from the tree line. Deep in the woods, hidden behind black bark and shadow. The wind picked up cold and unnatural. Leaves spun in small circles on the asphalt as if pulled by something unseen. Then suddenly, the dashboard clock blinked and froze at 6:06 p.m. I shivered, not from the cold, but from something inside me screaming, this wasn't just a mechanical failure. I got back in the car, locked all the doors, rolled up every window. I told myself someone would pass by, maybe a cop, maybe a trucker, anyone. And then I saw the lights. Far down the road through the rising fog, 2 headlights, slowly approaching like a predator stalking. I leaned out, waved my arms. Hey, I need help. The tow truck pulled up a few meters away, old, rusted, one headlight shattered. The license plate nearly erased by time. Then the driver stepped out. An old man, worn cap face like carved stone and eyes. That didn't feel human. He didn't smile. Didn't ask what was wrong. He just stared at me. For seconds that felt like minutes. Then without a word, he opened the truck's toolbox, pulled out a crumpled piece of paper and handed it to me. If you want to survive tonight, he said, you'd better read and memorize these rules before it gets dark. I gave a nervous laugh. You're joking, right? My car just broke down. He didn't answer, just climbed back into the cab, turned off the lights, and waited, like he was waiting for me to break the rules. I held the paper in my hands for longer than I'd like to admit. The handwriting was shaky, uneven, like it had been scribbled by someone in a full-blown panic or someone trying to write faster than something could reach them. The old man stayed in his truck, engine off, headlights out, but I could feel his eyes on me. I looked at the paper, At the top, in faded red ink, or maybe dried blood, it read, "Rules for staying alive in these woods." Underneath were 9 rules, each one more bizarre than the last. After sunset, do not open your windows, no matter what you hear. If you see a second version of yourself, do not engage. Do not step into the cornfield after 11:06 p.m., not even a foot. If someone knocks on your door 3 times, knock back 4. Exactly. Don't look into the mirror between 2:13 and 2:26 a.m. If the radio turns on by itself, let it play, no matter what it says. Never accept food after midnight, even if you're starving. If you hear your name being called from the forest, it's not your voice. Whatever you do, don't try to leave after dark. You won't like where you end up. I blinked, trying to process it. A part of me wanted to laugh it off. This had to be some kind of twisted joke. But the other part, the part still reeling from the way the clock froze, the silence in the woods, and the old man's chilling gaze, knew this wasn't a prank. I looked back at the truck. The driver was gone. My breath caught. For a moment, I thought he'd disappeared entirely. But then I saw him standing a few feet behind my car, completely still watching me. No flashlight, no movement. Just those cold, empty eyes. He finally spoke again. Voice low. Almost regretful. "I can't make you follow them. But if you don't, I won't be able to tow what's left of you come morning." He walked past me, opened the back of his truck, and gestured for me to get in. I hesitated. Everything inside me screamed don't. But something else, some primal survival instinct, pushed my legs forward. I climbed into the truck. Inside, the air was stale and thick. The dashboard was cluttered with strange trinkets, rabbit bones tied with red string Polaroids of empty roads, a cracked compass spinning in slow circles. There was a smell like burned hair and mold. He started the engine. It didn't roar, it groaned, like something deep inside it was waking up. As we drove, I asked, "Why these rules? Who made them?" He didn't look at me, didn't blink, just said quietly, "They're not rules, they're warnings." And then he turned off the main road, into a forest path that wasn't on any map I'd ever seen. I sat in the passenger seat of that ancient tow truck as it creaked and groaned down a dirt path swallowed by trees. The road ahead was black, not just dark black, like the forest was absorbing every drop of light. The man didn't speak again. He just drove. The rules sat in my lap, fluttering slightly from the truck's broken heater. I couldn't stop staring at them. Each rule looked worse the longer I read it. They didn't sound like guidelines. They read like desperate pleas, like someone had learned them the hard way and had written them down only after surviving. Or not. I read them again, slower this time. 1 after sunset, do not open your windows, no matter what you hear. Simple, right? But why? What would I hear out there that could tempt me to open a window? I looked out into the trees, and for a second, I thought I saw movement. Something pale ducking behind a trunk. 2. If you see a second version of yourself, do not engage. What the hell did that mean? A hallucination? A doppelganger? The idea of seeing myself in the dark, smiling back, sent a chill down my spine. 3. Do not step into the cornfield after 11:06 p.m., not even a foot. Why 11:06? Why not 11:05 or 11:07? Why not just avoid it altogether? The precision of that time made it worse, too specific to be made up. 4. If someone knocks 3 times, knock back 4. Exactly, 3 knocks. The classic horror trope. But the idea of responding, of communicating back, felt worse than just ignoring it. 5. Don't look into the mirror between 2:13 and 2:26 a.m. That one hit me hardest. Not because I feared mirrors, but because of how weirdly exact it was. 13 minutes. Something happens in that window. And I was going to be stuck here long enough to find out. 6. If the radio turns on by itself, let it play, no matter what it says. I thought back to the static on my car's radio before it died. That whispering. Was that it? Was I already being watched before I even saw the man? 7. Never accept food after midnight, even if you're starving. Was the food cursed? Was the person offering it not really human? 8. If you hear your name being called from the forest, it's not your voice, not mine. The words echoed in my mind. What the hell does that even mean? I imagined hearing my voice cry out in pain somewhere in the trees begging for help. And me still being right here. 9. Don't try to leave after dark. You won't like where you end up. That one stuck with me the longest. It didn't say I couldn't leave. It said I shouldn't. Because where I'd end up wouldn't be home. Wouldn't be anywhere I recognized. The old man finally pulled over near a small wooden cabin surrounded by dense pine trees. He turned off the engine, looked at me for the first time in miles. You stay here tonight. You follow the rules. And if you're lucky, you'll make it to morning. I wanted to ask, what happens if I break them? But his eyes told me you don't want to know. He handed me an old oil lantern. The flame flickered weakly, as if even fire was afraid of this place. I stepped out of the truck. The door creaked shut behind me. The wind was colder now. The forest felt closer. And the night was just beginning. The cabin was smaller than I expected. One room, one dusty cot, a rusted sink in the corner, and a single mirror cracked nailed to the wall across from the bed. The old man didn't step inside. He handed me the lantern, gave a nod, and simply said, "Don't open the windows. Don't break the rules. And whatever you do, don't talk back if something talks first." Then he was gone. No goodbye. No explanation. Just the sound of his truck vanishing into the trees like it never existed. I stood alone in the doorway, holding the flickering lantern, staring into the stillness. The air felt off. Not just cold, but heavy, like the night itself was waiting for me to screw up. I shut the door, locked it, bolted the windows, sat on the cot, clutching the rules with one hand and the lantern with the other. Then I waited. 9:03 p.m. A soft tapping came from the window behind me. 3 slow knocks. Exactly 3. I froze. It was too soon. I wasn't ready. "Don't open the window. Don't engage." I repeated the rules in my head like a prayer. But curiosity is poison. I stood, slowly moved toward the window just to look. There was nothing there. Just trees. And a fog that hadn't been there minutes ago now curling around the cabin like fingers. I backed away. Sat down again. One rule tested. Passed. 10:46 p.m. The old radio in the corner let out a sharp click. It turned on by itself. A static hum filled the room, then a soft, distant voice began to speak. Not in words, but whispers. Whispers in my voice. I wanted to shut it off. I reached out. Then I remembered, let it play, no matter what it says. I pulled my hand back and watched as the dial moved on its own, tuning through static like something was searching. I covered my ears, but the voice was inside now, like it had climbed through my hearing and buried itself behind my eyes. It whispered one word. "Run." 11:05 p.m. I checked the rules. Rule 3. Do not step into the cornfield after 11:06 p.m. There was no cornfield outside when I arrived, but now, through the window beyond the trees, I saw rows of corn swaying in the wind. Where the hell did it come from? Something moved between the stalks. A shadow. It looked like a man, but not a man. Tall. Jerky movements. Head twitching. 11:06 p.m. struck. And then, a second knock came, but not on the door. From inside the closet. I grabbed the lantern and backed away. Don't engage. Don't look in mirrors. Don't respond to voices. But everything in that room was trying to make me break the rules. The closet door creaked open by itself. Empty. Then I heard my own voice whisper behind me. "Let me out." I didn't turn around. I didn't breathe. I sat back on the bed, shut my eyes, and waited. 2:14 a.m. I made the mistake of glancing toward the mirror. It was cracked, but not cracked the same way as before. And in the reflection, I wasn't sitting. I was standing. My reflection smiled. And then it raised a hand and waved at me. I turned the mirror to face the wall. Sat in the dark lantern, dimming breath, shallow sweat soaking through my shirt. Somehow, I made it to dawn. But the last thing I heard before the sun rose, just as light crept into the window, was a low growl outside the door, and a voice not mine saying 1 down. 8 more to go. The next morning, I didn't feel like I had survived. I felt like I had passed a test barely. One night down and already the rules had taken a piece of me. The old man returned just after sunrise. He didn't ask how the night went. He just nodded when he saw I was still alive. Most don't make it through the first, he muttered as if disappointed I had. He dropped off some food, an old can of beans, a loaf of bread, and a bottle of water, and left me with one sentence before disappearing again. Tonight will test your memory. Not everything that comes for you will look like a threat. That stuck with me. All day I tried to rest, but my eyes kept drifting back to the cornfield outside. It hadn't been there the day before, but now it reached across the tree line like it had always existed. And at its edge, something waited. I could see footprints in the dirt, barefoot, deep. Like whatever made them was heavy or not human. I told myself I wouldn't go near it. But the problem with rules is that once you fear them enough, you start wondering what happens if you don't follow them. By late evening, just before sundown, I made a decision. A reckless human decision. 10:55 p.m. I stood just at the edge of the cornfield. The lantern in my hand barely lit the first few rows. I didn't plan to go far, just one step, just to see, just to prove it wasn't real. My boot crossed the threshold. 11:06 p.m. The wind died instantly. The trees stopped rustling. Even the night insects went silent. And then, everything changed. From within the cornfield, I heard footsteps, but not approaching, circling. I turned quickly and saw someone standing among the stalks. Me. Not a mirror image, not a reflection. It was me. Same clothes, same face, except the eyes were wrong. Too black, too wide, and smiling far too much. He didn't speak. He just stood there grinning. Then he raised a hand and waved slowly like he'd been waiting. I stumbled backward, but the stalks closed in behind me. The way out was gone. I ran through the rose lantern, swinging wildly, breath catching in my throat. Every time I turned, he was there ahead of me. Same smile, same stare. I screamed. No echo, no help. And then I tripped. I hit the ground hard, face scraping against roots and dirt. When I looked up, he was above me. Me crouching like an animal head, tilted grin stretching far too wide for a human face. He leaned in close. I couldn't move. He whispered in my ear, his breath cold. You weren't supposed to see me. Yet. Then everything went black. I woke up the next morning outside the cabin, face down in the dirt. The sun was rising. My lantern was shattered beside me. The rules were gone. No sign of the cornfield. Just empty forest. I stumbled inside, looked in the mirror. My reflection blinked a second too late, and smiled even though I wasn't. I had broken a rule. And now, something else was in here with me. I didn't sleep the second night. After what happened in the cornfield, after seeing myself in the dark, something changed inside me. I didn't feel like a guest anymore. I felt like a prisoner. But the worst part, I started to believe. I tried to ignore the signs to convince myself I was just exhausted, hallucinating. But when I looked in the mirror that morning, my reflection didn't blink. It smiled. And then it stayed smiling even after I turned away. That was when I knew I wasn't alone anymore. Not even in my own body. I waited for the old man to return to give me food, guidance, anything. He never came. So I did the one thing the rules told me not to do. I tried to leave. 5:42 p.m. I packed what little I had left, the broken lantern, a half-full bottle of water, the tattered remains of the rule list I managed to salvage from under my bed. The sun was dipping again. I didn't care. I followed the dirt path back toward the road. Branches cracked underfoot. Crows circled above me. The deeper I walked into the woods, the more I felt the air thicken like walking through unseen webs. 6:06 p.m. I reached the edge of the forest. There it was, my car. Exactly where I left it. Still broken down, still cold. But something was off. The trees around it looked too still, like a photograph. And when I tried to approach, my legs felt heavier, like something inside the earth was pulling at my ankles. I forced myself forward, opened the car door. The keys were still in the ignition. And then, the radio turned on. Same static, same whispering. But this time the voice said my name, clearly. You're not supposed to leave. I slammed the door and ran. I followed the road for what felt like hours. I should have hit a highway by now, a gas station, a mailbox, anything. But the road just kept looping. Trees I'd passed before, the same broken fence, a dead raccoon I'd seen that morning exactly where it had been. Every time I passed it, the body was fresher, like I was moving backward through its death. I screamed. I ran into the woods, thinking I could cut across the loop, break the pattern. That's when I saw the lights, a house, a real one. Windows lit, chimney smoking, warmth. I sprinted toward it, heart thudding. I knocked on the door, no answer. I knocked again. A woman opened it, middle-aged, kind eyes, soft smile. Relief flooded my chest, until she said, "You're early. We weren't expecting you until night 5. My blood froze. I backed away slowly. Behind her, through the crack in the door, I saw portraits on the wall. Each one was of me. Different angles, different clothes. Some with my eyes closed, some with blood on my face. I ran. I didn't look back. By the time I collapsed from exhaustion, the forest looked unfamiliar again, but somehow, I ended up back at the cabin, as if I'd never left. The door was open. Inside, the mirror faced me again. And the reflection, it was already sitting on the bed, grinning, waiting, tapping the broken rule sheet against its knee. I understood now. This place didn't want me to follow the rules. It wanted me to believe them. And once I did, there was no way out. I stopped trying to leave. Not because I gave up, but because something inside me changed. The rules weren't just for survival. They were a test, a filter, and I had failed. Or maybe I had passed, depending on what the forest wanted from me. Days stopped making sense. There was no more sunrise or sunset, just long stretches of gray and black. The cabin grew smaller. The woods crept closer. The mirror stopped showing me entirely. I didn't even cast a shadow anymore. Sometimes I would hear knocking from beneath the floorboards. Sometimes I heard my own voice humming lullabies I didn't know. And every now and then, I saw the tow truck again, parked outside, engine off, empty. But no old man. Until one night, just before what I thought might have been dawn, I heard the engine start. I rushed to the window. A new car had broken down on the road. The headlights blinked twice, then died. And from the fog, the tow truck rolled in. I walked outside. My legs moved on their own. My mind was calm, too calm, like I was dreaming someone else's thoughts. The tow truck door was open. No one was inside. But in the seat there, it was the list of rules, folded neatly, waiting. I picked it up, ran my fingers over the faded ink. The 9th rule had changed. It no longer read, "Don't try to leave after dark." Now it said, "When it's your turn, pass it on." I don't remember walking to the broken-down car. I just appeared there. The man inside looked terrified, exactly how I must have looked on my first night. He rolled down the window, slowly whispering, "Are you with roadside assistance?" I smiled. It wasn't really me smiling, but my face moved anyway. I handed him the paper. "If you want to survive the night," I said, "you need to memorize these rules before it gets dark." He looked at me confused, then down at the list. By the time he looked up again, I was already gone. I don't know what I am now. Maybe I'm the new watcher. Maybe I'm the next guardian of this place. Or maybe I never existed at all, and you're just reading the rules I left behind. So let me ask you this. Has your clock ever frozen at 6:06 p.m.? Have you ever heard knocking in the middle of the night, even when you're alone? Because if you have, you might already be next. If you found this story valuable and interesting, please hit the like button. This really helps us bring you more good and valuable content. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think, what questions you have, or what topics you would like us to cover next. We love hearing from you. Of course, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our next stories. Thank you for taking the time to read my stories.